Did you always envision pursuing a government job? And what drew you to UPSC in the first place?
I think growing up, I always wanted to wear the uniform, either the Navy uniform or the Army uniform or the police uniform. Primarily, that came from my father's profession. My father was he used to work in the administrative division of Mumbai Police. I had a very standard routine, which was study as much as I could during the weekdays. And Saturdays, Sundays, I would organize hikes or walks or trips for break free because I didn't want to rely on my family for my everyday expenses and my academic expenses. My schedule was, work for 9-10 hours in the office and then come home and study. Weekends would be spent in like absolute preparation. Sacrifices, I think, was socially. I didn't attend many events, so personal life will go on the back burner. Failure is really bad, and it really throws you off your game and makes you question everything. I had not missed by a large mark. In fact, in the 2015 attempt, I missed it by 0.7. Most people, their motivation tapers as the attempts pile on. In COVID, I cracked my first prelims. So I said, if I go all the way. And I said, I will only rest after I'm done. I've exhausted my attempts. Until my attempts were exhausted, I didn't give up.
UPSC results are public. So your failure is essentially very, very public. I think you have to fail with grace and you have to accept it because the result is the result. You need to be extremely judicious with your resources, which is both time and money. I would go chasing books and I would go chasing perfection. You should not do that. Take guidance, but don't rely on the guidance completely blindly because it's also a very commercial industry now. So I wish I had known these things when I actually started preparing. I think my preparation would have become even better. And I turned 32 and I got my the final result saying that, boss, look, you're not going for the interviews and this is the end of the road. I think I'm over the heartbreak of not having cleared the exam though.
Hey everyone, welcome to DiscoverU Career Journeys. This is the place where everyday professionals, entrepreneurs, and even students share the moments that define their career paths, the victories they smile about, and the tiny steps that made all the difference. We'll bring you honest and inspiring conversations with career changers, coaches, HR leaders, and yes, even those who reinvented themselves during midlife career transitions. As a friendly community for anyone seeking career clarity, we bring you inspiring real-life stories plus expert tips you can actually use. So grab a cup of chai, settle in, and let's kick off an honest chat, packed with simple, powerful advice to help you chart your own career journey. Hello and welcome to DiscoverU Career Journeys. Today we are delighted to be joined by Rushikesh Kulkarni, Senior Manager, HR Business Partner for Engineering and Product at CleverTap, a leading player in MarTech space. Based in Mumbai, Rushikesh brings 7 years of post-master's experience in human resources with a thoughtful, people-first approach to business partnering in high-growth tech environments. A lifelong Mumbaiker, Rushikesh has built his career at the intersection of technology and talent. Prior to CleverTap, he served as a HR business partner at Samsung R&D, Bangalore, and later at Pine Labs in Mumbai, supporting revenue and business teams during crucial phases of growth. An alumni of Tata Institute of Social Sciences, TISS, where he completed his MA in Human Resources, Rushikesh has also had a rather unique journey. At the age of 19, he started Break Free Journeys, an initiative that ran until 2016. From 2011 to 2022, he simultaneously pursued the civil service exam known as UPSC alongside his education and work, bringing with him a rare blend of resilience, discipline, and intellectual curiosity. Outside of work, Rishikesh is deeply passionate about birding, reading, and writing, with interests that span both fiction and non-fiction. His ability to balance a structured corporate role with creative and contemplative pursuits makes his journey especially inspiring. Rishikesh, thank you for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you so much. It's a very generous, nice introduction. I'm very happy to be here. Looking forward to the conversation.
Lovely. So I'm going to just begin with a little bit about where you are today, and what does your current HR role look like, and how would you kind of describe yourself beyond your job title?
Okay. Um, I work as a senior manager, HR business partner. So essentially, very simply put, this is, the person who is responsible for, uh, the entire employee experience from the day that they are onboarded till the day they exit or they move, roles. So as long as they are with the company, their entire experience rests with the business partner. And I have a dual facing responsibility, which basically means that I need to work with the employees, but also along with them, with the management, and sort of bridge the gap that could exist between the two. I of course have a small team who's also responsible for the similar activities. But yeah, essentially it's that. So I'm sort of the one person point of contact for all things people in the company that I work in, which is CleverTap. Um, Apart from that, I like to just be curious about life and its idiosyncrasies. And I love to talk to people, read through books, and especially read through the history of India and Mumbai specifically. And this comes from the time when I used to lead works. But yeah, largely that's who I am. I find a lot of peace and solace in the outdoors.
Nice. Um, so let's rewind a bit here, Rishikesh. Growing up in Mumbai, did you always envision pursuing a government job? And what drew you to UPSC in the first place?
I think growing up, I always wanted to wear the uniform. And it could be any uniform. It was either the Navy uniform or the Army uniform or the police uniform. But as I started growing up and maybe around the junior college, degree college times, when you had to make a choice, I started, considering the civil service exam more seriously. And primarily that came from my father's profession. My father was he used to work in the administrative division of Mumbai Police. So there was a lot of, sort of the ringside views that I would get each time he would talk about work and, like the impact that, the police were making in the city. And, and of course, Mumbai police is like very well represented in popular culture, but I actually saw the actual real side of it. And I felt, this is where I could make a real impact. That's when it sort of solidified. And, and since then, after graduation, I decided that this will be the path that I will pursue.
Okay. All right. So I want to dive deeper and talk a little bit about the UPSC bug or craze, as some people call it. What did that phase look like for you? Emotionally, I think, socially, and even culturally.
Yeah. Um, and this is back about 15 years ago, right? So we are looking
Yes.
at 2010 to 2011. And that's when, the bug, as we see it now, was in its nascent stages. And especially in Mumbai, there weren't many aspirants. Of course, Pune had a lot more aspirants, and that whole culture of preparation was, prevalent in those parts. But Mumbai specifically didn't have that much. But so you were sort of isolated, and you didn't have too much company back then. You didn't have too many people preparing with you, and resources were scarce. But emotionally, you always woke up with a purpose, and you had this larger than life goal, because the stats are absolutely haywire and they keep increasing every year. So the positions are, very few, and aspirants keep increasing. But again, you have a greater purpose, and you are constantly motivated at the thought of what it could mean if it actually happens. So that way, I think it was a very charged sort of an environment. Socially, like I said, I think almost nobody from my immediate peer group was pursuing this. And even if they were, they had like other things in, parallelly going on, and, they had something else going on uh, in their, academic life and so on. So that was a little bit of a, loner type of a phase. And, I mean, culturally, I actually didn't tell a lot of people. A lot of people, didn't know, and I didn't want to speak about it because it's too much of a burden to carry. Because it's cyclical, and there is another, attempt comes in, the result comes out. It's all public news. So that was not the case. So yeah, I mean, I think, but every time I met somebody, who was preparing, and it was easy to identify. You would meet them in the library, and we all had the same books. So it was always be, very wholesome to meet somebody from, that circle. And of course, you would meet them during the exams. But in the prep stage, and 2, 3 friends of mine, whom I made during that time, they're still with me, in various capacities, right? Like we will collaborate on something, or we'll at least talk. So yeah.
Okay. Were there people who encouraged you, or made you kind of believe that you could crack it, you could do this?
Yeah. I think when the odds are so crazy, and they're almost stacked against you, you need those kinds of people. So I think it was primarily my family, my father especially, right? Like at every failure, I think he'd seen 3 attempts with me, and the three at every stage he would say, it's fine, there is no need to do anything else. Just stay focused, and let me know whatever you need, and you are almost there, and so on. So I think that was enough, and to keep going. So yeah,
Yeah.
family mainly, and some of my very close friends, during that period, they would always be, rooting for me, and they would always make it very clear with their encouragement.
Okay. You spent roughly 6 or more years preparing for UPSC with multiple attempts, Rishikesh.
Yeah.
Could you walk us through what those years looked like? Your routine, your mindset, and most importantly, the sacrifices that you might have made.
Uh, it's a long 10 years. So, but yeah, I think the my UPSC journey is actually split up into 2 phases. The
Okay.
first phase was from say 2010 up until 2016, or 2015 rather, uh, because I gave my first attempt in 2012 with about 1.5 years of prep. So just after I graduated in 2011. So 1 year from then was the very serious preparation. Then I attempted again in 2013, um, and again I did not clear the prelims. So I took a year's break in 2014. I stopped everything in 2015, and I prepared again, but again 2015 I didn't clear. So and then I went to TISS in 2016. So those first 3 years, I had a very standard routine, which was study as much as I could during the weekdays, which was Monday to Fridays. And Saturdays, Sundays, I would organize hikes or walks or trips for break free, because I didn't want to rely on my family for my everyday expenses and my academic expenses. So I would continue to do that, and that also gave me a good change. So Mondays to Fridays I would study. Saturday, Sunday, small group of us, we had developed a nice tribe of folks who were regulars, and so marketing and social media, all of that was not such a big thing for me back then. So we would go on trips, and closer to the exam, I would suspend all activities and focus only on the exam. And then that would mean 7 days prep. Hours were not that many, but I would say about 8 to 10 hours on an average was almost uh, a regular routine for me. Mindset wise, I think mindset was not very good. I mean, if you ask me, it was
Mm.
not very productive, which because it was not leading to successful outcome. Mindset was to do everything, because you were not doing anything and you had this whole 1 year of a runway to prepare. You would, like, I would want to go and get a lot of books and do things perfectly. And then, as I learned in subsequent attempts, it was not important to do a book cover to cover. It wasn't important to do the entire syllabus. So I actually pursued perfection over completion. So perfecting, all chapters in a book, and doing it until you have like achieved absolute mastery over it. That's a lesson also, but that was my mindset, that you had to do everything, and because you were also doing a lot of hard work and you were putting in the hours, so it was important that I go ahead and you know finish everything in that manner, in the as perfect as I could. But I think that was not what I should have done. But that was like the first phase. And in the second phase, I started working. So 2 years, 16 to 18 was college, which was my master's
Okay.
degree. And that was very intensive. I had thought that it may not be that hard, but it was quite uh, crazy that I couldn't even be a day scholar. I had to take up an apartment close to Chembur, and traveling every day was not possible
This is the master's, the
in the
TIS
masters at
program.
this. So then, but the good thing that happened is that I got back to the habit of academic preparation and reading a lot of books in little time. Going through managing my time, doing assignments with a deadline. You don't have an entire year; you have a semester to prepare and finish and give an exam and so on. So that sort of helped. And then I went to Samsung. In Samsung, my schedule was drastically different. At that point, my schedule was, work for 9, 10 hours in the office, and then come home and study. But my mornings and evenings, at least 2 hours, 3 hours every day, that was reserved for preparation, and the weekends would be spent in like absolute preparation. So I think that was the routine in both phases. Sacrifices, I think, was socially. I didn't attend many events. Um, I think I attended just a few weddings of very close friends. Uh, I missed most of the festivals, most of the holidays. Even when I went to Bangalore the first time, I did not travel as much as I thought I would, because any long weekend, any holidays seem like a uninterrupted period of preparation
Yes.
versus going for a trip. So I think that I didn't do. But yeah, I think that way, I think on the personal front there was a little bit of a you know putting it on the back burner. So personal life will go on the back burner. So I think that was how it is.
These preparations and attempts, what did the repeated failures take on your mental health and identity mostly?
Um, so I think I was um, I I think one of the things was that failure is really bad, and it really throws you off your game, and question makes you question everything. But there were two, three things that helped me to be not be disappointed for a very long time. One was that the feeling that uh, like I had not missed by a large mark. Like every time I would miss within the range of 5 to 10 marks in the prelims,
Mm.
right? And that gap kept narrowing. In fact, in the
Okay.
2015 attempt, I missed it by zero point 0.7. It was 107.7. My score was 107, and UPSC started releasing your marks also. And once it started publishing the marks against what was the cutoff, it made you reflect very objectively, saying, "Oh, this is where you missed out. So you're not that far. You're not so bad as you think you are." Of course, the result is binary, but also there is some gradation of failure, right? Okay, you failed by so much, or you didn't fail. Okay, just one more mark, so you're almost there. I think that helped. Having break free, having that network, having that community, saying that it's fine, it's not the end of the world. I have something to fall back on. That helped. Um, Third, that you are not alone all the time. That there are lakhs of people like you who are not making it. So it's okay. You're not an isolated case. So yeah, but I think it is tough, and it could things could look really bleak if you don't know what next. And therefore, having a good close group of friends or supportive, understanding family members, I think that helps, which it did in my case. Um, um, and like as I grew older, I was 22 when I gave my first attempt. I was about to turn 32 on my last attempt. So I think as I grew older, I was more thankful for the job, the degree, and the potential that I had. So uh, it, I mean, that helped me to remain sort of steady there. But yeah, I mean, it's difficult. Failing is never easy. Failing is
Yeah.
hard.
And obviously this 10 years is a long journey
Yeah.
that you had. When did the realization set in that it was time to let go? What was that breaking point, or was it gradual?
No, I think in my case, and this is the funny part. Most people, their motivation tapers as the attempts pile on. Um, uh, because they've seen if they see success too early, then going all the way is difficult. Uh, yeah, UPSC is divided in three parts, and it's a year-long process. The first stage is the prelims exam, which is the sort of the screening round or the elimination round, where most candidates are eliminated, and that's the toughest to crack, in my opinion or in my experience. So out of the 6 attempts that I gave, 4 attempts I could not crack the prelims, and your next attempt comes after a year. So that's it really like then it's like your entire year has been wasted because you prepared for the entire year before. Uh, but as I took up the job and I started preparing with the job, in COVID I cracked my first prelims. And that said that, look, I mean, all of these 8 years of prep has, translated into success, and that means now I'm close. So I said, now if I go, I go all the way. And I had 2 more attempts. I mean, that was the fifth attempt when I cleared my prelims. So I said, then I'm going all the way. Now these are my final 2 attempts. So, and I said, I will only rest after I'm done. I've exhausted my attempts. So yeah, so until my attempts were exhausted, I didn't give up. Yeah. Because I had not tasted success of clearing prelims because that itself was in my mind a big milestone, and I kept chasing that. So yeah, I think I had decided that uh, I will go all the way.
So UPSC taught me to fail with grace. This is something that stood out from an article I read in your blog. Can you elaborate a little bit more about this statement?
Like I said, UPSC results are public. Uh,
Yes.
it's like a national news that comes out. The PDF is accessible to all. In fact, some of the newspapers even print the entire PDF. So if your name is not in on the list, that means you have failed. So your failure is essentially very, very public. You can't even say anything about it, right? You can't bluff, and including the mains and the pre. Okay, it's not just the final results. Even the prelim results are now being published as an entire PDF. You can actually just download mine and see, and so there's no making things up kind of a thing. Uh, so yeah, but so there is no option but to accept. Like a college failure or a one course or one semester, it's still extremely private, and you can deal with it privately. But anybody who knows that you are preparing or anybody is with you, they have the entire result is accessible to everybody. So therefore, there's no option but to sort of accept it. But having said that, failure sucks, and it's a bad feeling. You end up questioning a lot of your choices. You end up sort of regretting some of the things that you did, and you think maybe they were responsible. I didn't do this, or maybe I didn't get the right feedback, or I didn't get the right guidance. I got wrong guidance or whatever. But at the end of it all, the result is binary and you have to accept it. So I think the sooner you learn to accept failure, the faster you bounce back, and the faster and the stronger you return. That is what I learned by the third or fourth attempt. I said that look, if I give up now, then all of the mehnat is gone, and that's the hard work that you need to respect. Um, because no matter, I'm sure there's always something that you could have done better. Even I think All India
Yeah.
rank one, I'm sure he or she feels that they could have done something better. Then they could have done even more there. In the exam or in the interview, they would have answered differently and so on. So these thoughts keep coming. But yeah, I think you have to fail with grace and you have to accept it because the result is the result. So there's nothing that you can do about it.
And looking back, what do you wish you had known when you started preparing?
Um, okay, so it's a philosophical thing also, and of course it is the more operational bit. So let me just take the operational bit in case there are aspirants who are watching. Um, Operationally, it like you need to be extremely judicious with your resources, which is both time and money, um, and the effort that you put in, which means that uh, there are for every chapter there could be a different book of the syllabus, right? So if the syllabus has say 10 parts, then every part has a book available, but you don't need to read the book. You need to read one book that has everything, but you need to do it really well. So you need to practice, minimalism, and you have to focus on your uh, doing whatever you have, you do it well, you know, because I would go chasing books and I would go chasing perfection. You should not do that. Uh, a second is a revision is absolutely critical. You need to keep revising as much as you can to the point where this becomes second nature. But that's fine. You don't have to do rote learning, but at least you should know some of the facts very well, and that only comes when you have revised thoroughly. Third is to solve previous year's question papers. I wish I would have solved in my first two attempts at least. Had I solved much more, I had simulated the environment. I had sat in, in these test um, centers that started emerging in then. But I didn't do all of that. I was very overconfident. I said, no, 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 what is there? I will sit in my house and I will do it. But in your house, you have, a comfortable chair, you have a desk, but in the real world, you sit in a KG classroom in a government school. benches are rickety. There's no, there could be religious processions going outside. One, Neta might be giving some speech. Some protest is going on. Lots of things could happen, and they are extremely detrimental to your performance. Um, and take guidance, but don't rely on the guidance completely blindly. Take it with a pinch of salt because it's also a very commercial industry now. So, so everybody doesn't want you to become uh, a topper, because if they service about 10,000 people, just the law of averages means that somebody from those 10,000 will become a topper for them. So, so they maximize on that. So it's good to take guidance, but be careful with that guidance. So I wish I had known these things when I actually started preparing. I think my preparation would have become even better as I went ahead. Uh, Philosophically, I think it is important to have a sort of uh, I think two, three things. One is to practice, what the Stoic philosophy mentions as, control what you can. But so whatever is in your control, you should be absolutely prepared. Don't worry about what's not in your control. The UPSC exam questions are structured in such a way that about 30-40% is what everything is what almost any good candidate understands. The rest, about 40%, is what separates a good candidate from an average candidate, and the 20% is uh, like nobody can answer that, right? And it's going to be like a slumdog millionaire sort of a thing, that you were there at the right place, therefore you knew it. uh, like there were certain questions on Humpy which came one year, and very few people got it. I was one of them, but I still didn't clear the pre because all questions are equal weightage, and I knew it because I was the tour guide for many Humpy trips and so on. But that doesn't mean anything because I didn't clear the exam, because all questions have similar weightage. So understanding this, and applying that to all things that you do, including prep, is important. Second is to really guard your strengths. And I think it's a philosophy that I learned from UPSC, which I continue to follow. Uh, in UPSC, there used to be about 8 to 10 questions on culture and this tourism and culture. And it's difficult to study. And about 10-15 questions on economics, which you can study. Uh, Now, for an average candidate, studying culture was very difficult and very, it can be very boring because it's not mechanical. You just need to know. So I knew it well because I was organizing trips and I was, writing blogs and so on. So I really focused on that. I doubled down on that and I said that, look, if any question on dance forms or art forms or historical monuments comes, I should be able to answer because I'm guaranteeing those. So like that, I started doing, okay, environment is a similar related to my field. So everything environment, I should know. Economics, I have a degree in economics, so I should know. So like that, towards the fifth prelim, I knew that this is my stuff. This I have to do. Rest, if somebody is going to ask me on the constitution, I should know what the average guy knows. May not be an expert, but anything on these other three, four areas, I mean, that should not be a question. So I think so that's what, playing to your strengths and really guarding and strengthening your strengths. I think those were the two very important philosophical things, or ideas that I stuck to, and I think that's a part of also growing up, because I started growing up and I started clearing the prelims. Yeah.
If someone is watching this in the thick of UPSC prep, I also get a lot of inquiries from students or clients of mine who are in the thick of it and they've failed, or they've rather, gone through or faced 2 to 3 failures, and they're questioning their path at this point of time. Um, As a person who's been through this journey, what would you say to them?
2 to 3 attempts, right? This is a very critical juncture. Okay. There are 2 3 options that exist for any candidates, and I think I speak from personal experience because when I gave the 2013 attempt and I didn't clear, I really got scared, thinking that what would happen if I just don't clear, right? What do I fall back on? So um, it's a good time to pause and reflect. um, you need to do 2 3 things here. I think the first is to um, see, uh, have you really done all of the prep that is required? Have you really given it a true attempt? If you have not given it a true attempt, then there is a problem, and then you may want to give a dedicated 1 more year for it, and then see what you want to do. If you're uh, if you think you have given all of it, really well, and there's something that you could do better, maybe 1 more attempt, and then you decide what you want to do. uh, Financially, and of course, your family and so on. I mean, if that situation permits, I think it's good to keep going until then, after doing this sort of pause and reflect sort of an exercise. um, if not, then I think it's good to build a backup now, because typically there are 2 3 years have passed from your graduation, at this stage, which means that if you graduated in engineering, you may have lost out on the competitive edge that you may have had, along with your classmates. Your classmates have already become lead engineers or senior engineers, and they are specialists, or they have done their masters and then they're moving forth and so on. So my request is to start building your backup now, which basically means 2 3 things, right? One is that you take up a job, any government job, a bank job, or even a corporate job, provided it allows you the time to pursue UPSC. Um, if not, do a master's, which is what I did. I think that's an
Yes.
excellent option. Master's, which results into decent employment at the end. Not necessarily masters for the sake of it. I've seen many UPSC aspirants just take up a masters because it's possible, but it doesn't translate into any um, uh, you know
I have noticed that too.
yeah.
Yes.
If you like, IGNOU and some of these open universities,
Yes.
they offer those masters, but they are very good if you're doing it in the optional that you are preparing for. Because you have one optional that you need to be a specialist in during your mains. So maybe
Hmm.
for that purpose, sure, do the IGNOU masters, because even for my optional, I studied IGNOU material, both BA and MA. Uh, but I don't think that's a good opportunity to get a job. So that's if that's the idea, then that route I don't recommend. Uh, One more thing, which is very popular, I did it when I ran out of absolute all of my savings in 2016, just before TIS. So TIS started in June. So December of 2015 until June, I taught at a UPSC classes in Dadar. I would go and teach those 3 4 subjects that I knew, and I would make about 800 rupees an hour. 800 rupees for 2 hours, so about 1600 in a weekend, which was decent money. At least my phone bills and commuting, all of that would be taken care, and it would help me to stay in touch with the subject also. And this is a very common practice that many aspirants do in Delhi and in the hubs, which after the second third attempt I totally recommend. So it will help you gain that sort of edge. Uh, Third, I mean, if you've done everything and you think life is calling, then of course, uh, call it a day, um, and you know explore some of these options. Many of my batchmates in TISS were those folks who had called it quits on their journey, and they had decided that this is a complete new pivot that they are making in their career, and there is no looking back on this path or this journey. that they will go for this new world that opens up. And of course, there are so many opportunities, right? Like there is social impact consulting that is available. There are multiple government, positions which are, contractual, but a good stepping stone into, the developmental sector or public policy. Niti Aayog has many young professional programs, so you can sign up for those. Um, um, Organizations like, I think I remember, Sports Authority of India had opened about 100 positions or so for all those who had at least appeared for the interview but had not cleared. They said, okay, there
Okay.
is a direct walk-in interview available for you. Yeah, the government also offers multiple positions as a consultant. Like the collector's office in Nasik will have a consultant opening. Many of my ex batchmates actually went through that route also, and they worked in those with these sort of public-private partnership organizations. Um, Many companies have a very strong focus on policy and governance. So, like for instance, I know many folks who join Meta because they work at this intersection of public policy, privacy, and of course, commerce. So you need somebody who understands, that space from that angle.
Yeah.
There are, multiple, both public and private organizations that work on research in public policy, and which is something that we study, for the exam. So that's good. There are multiple fellowships. I think the LAM fellowship where you work with an MP in your area. I think in your constituency, I think that's a good one. You get to see everyday governance up close and
On
personal
the ground kind of
on the
work.
ground, and you work really with the public representative on the developing and shaping public policy. You prepare their briefs, and some of my friends who also prepared with me were LAM fellows, and they did very well in their life. By staying connected to what they are that they were passionate about. So at least in some way. And I think over the years, if you've seen, the government is now more open to consulting with, the sort of the private bodies when defining policy and when working with them. So there are now, there's a lot of support from, the corporate houses also for these initiatives. I think these are some things that, aspirants should pursue because the preparation allows you um, to create meaningful impact without really having a degree. But you're trained in policy, you're trained in the constitution, you're trained in the socio-political environment of India. You are well versed with the history of all that has happened. You are extremely conversant with world affairs, um, and so that way, from a generalist point of view, I think this is fantastic time to enter into that space and
Yeah.
still
I think the curiosity of also knowing that these options are
yeah, yeah,
available
yeah,
is very important, to kind of have the opportunity to say, okay, let me just be curious and ask around. And I think that's one of the important skills to also have
absolutely,
here.
yeah. I feel one of uh, uh, the resource guy persons, his name is Mrunal, and Mrunal used to publish a list of government opportunities. I think his URL is mrunal.org.
Okay.
He has a list of all government openings that keep coming. Back then, there used to be a newspaper called Employment News. I think that's also available online, where all government openings are available. And those are some things that that students should pursue. But that's just the government part of it. But
Yes.
even just sort of parallelly, if they want to join some of these global organizations, public policy organizations, policy think tanks. These are excellent opportunities for students,
Okay.
aspirants.
Rishikesh, how did you emotionally rebuild and make space for a new identity after moving on from UPSC here?
Yeah, I think I always straddled multiple identities, and I think that was the maybe that is how I coped with this entire thing also, because I knew a lot of people who would not have something meaningful, or they would think that they don't have anything meaningful at the end of the preparation. That okay, what now, right? But because I was uh, running break free along with preparation, or um, already had a job, which I was not so bad at. I mean, I was okay. They gave me some time off to study, so I thought like it's some goodwill gesture. So definitely I would say so that was not really an issue. But after 2022, when the journey ended, that's like the official end. And I turned 32, and yeah, and I got my the final results saying that, boss, look, you're not going for the interviews, and this is the end of the road. I think it's a little difficult to build that identity. So but I don't think, okay, aspirant wise, I think I am done. But I think some of the habits that I picked up back then, I think they continue to be with me. I still read two newspapers, uh, um, and I continue to track politics and world affairs very closely. Of course, I don't really write that much as I would have back then, but I have a website and I write a little bit over
Yes.
there. Uh, so
You have a
uh,
blog too. I mean, that's
yeah,
the blog.
that's the blog. So yeah, and I think any other opportunity that keeps coming my way, by helping aspirants and talking to them or guiding them and so on, I think I am very game for those things. So yeah, but I think once an aspirant, always an aspirant. But yeah, I think I'm over the heartbreak of not having cleared the exam though.
That brings us to the end of part one of Rishikesh's story. From the highs and heartbreaks of UPSC prep to what it truly means to let go of a long held dream. But his journey didn't end there. In part two, we dive into how he found his way into the world of HR, what it's really like behind the scenes, and the powerful lessons he's learned from navigating corporate life for 7 years. Trust me, you don't want to miss part two of this conversation, which is coming up next week. Hit subscribe so that you don't miss it. At the end of each career journey, we bring you the key learnings from our conversations with our guests. From Rishikesh's journey, one of the strongest lessons was learning to fail with grace, because resilience often matters more than results. Preparing for UPSC can feel like a lonely road, which is why having a supportive community is so important. Along the way, he realized that success doesn't come from chasing perfection, but from consistent revision and practice with previous papers. Another big takeaway was the need to be mindful of how you invest your time, money, and effort during preparation. Playing to your strengths and doubling down where you truly excel can make a huge difference. And while ambition drives you forward, it's equally important to build a backup plan, whether that's through jobs, higher studies, or fellowships, so you always have options. Rishikesh's story also reminded us of the importance of maintaining curiosity and staying informed, because personal growth doesn't stop with exams. Most importantly, he emphasized that your identity should never rest on one single goal. Having passions and pursuits beyond UPSC is what truly keeps the fire alive. Thank you for watching this inspiring conversation on DiscoverU Career Journeys. If you've enjoyed this chat, hit the like button and let me know in the comment section which part of today's story inspired you most. And if you have questions about your own career or want to hear from people in a specific industry, drop those suggestions below as well. Don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a new career journey. It may just be the inspiration you were looking for. Until next time, stay